Hello and welcome to the Intro to Marathon Lead Gen and Conversion with your MAPS coach, Richard Schulman. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and the recording will be sent out today. If you have any questions, please type those into the questions box in your webinar taskbar and we will answer those near the end of the session. Also, following the webinar, if you have any questions, you can always email us. Our email address is fasttrack@kw.com. That's FASTTRACK@kw.com. And that's all for me. So, Richard, you can take it away.
Hey, Paige, thank you so much, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this call. I'm really excited to chat with you about my favorite topic in real estate. And if you were at Family Reunion listening to Gary, I think other than technology, probably his favorite topic, it's lead generation and conversion, right, the core of our business. So we're going to be on the phone about 25 minutes or so today, depending on how fast I talk and how many questions we get. And I'm going to go over a brief idea of how we generate and convert leads at a higher level. Now, if you've been watching Family Reunion in the last few years and going to any of the other trainings, you'll hear a lot of the same themes, is that, success is in the boring, right? Get comfortable with the boring. Success is in the minutia. So this class really follows along that same idea, that we're going to get really comfortable and really expert at the boring parts of real estate, which are sitting down, making our calls in a systematic, purposeful fashion. And by doing that, we're going to achieve much greater success than we're achieving right now. So with that really stunning intro, let's jump right in. I'll introduce myself on the next slide. So I'm a training junkie. I've been at KW for 11 years. I've been at the Santa Monica office the last 4 years, and I've been really excited to be here because being at KW has been an incredible experience as far as learning all about real estate as a business, right? I was in another brokerage before, and we never learned about the business side of real estate. It was just sort of, run around and sell homes until you give up. And by doing, a business-focused real estate venture and by really getting excited about the idea of building a team and purposely doing what I'm doing, I've been able to achieve much higher level of success. My first 3 years in real estate at a different firm, I sold about 27 homes. Now, in our best months, we'll do that many sales. So our team sold 172 homes last year for $125 million. And you can see the other numbers on the screen there. On the next slide, I want to share a few other things that I do. I'm a rental property owner. I'm invested in 2 market centers. I'm a groups coach, as you've probably figured out. I've been a candidate for OP, and I get a lot of calls for people looking for OP roles. Well, I haven't taken one yet. OP is operating principal. If you're not familiar, it'd be like your team leader's boss and sort of representative ownership. I have a construction business and about 125 people in my profit share, plus or minus. So why do I tell you all that on the next slide? The reason why is that a lot of these things are maybe seemingly disjointed from real estate, but they all are related to my core business of real estate, and they're all related to the idea that everything that we do starts and stops with lead generation. Buying rental property requires you to generate and convert leads, right? I have to call brokers who might have properties. I have to cold call homeowners in neighborhoods I want to be in. I have to send out marketing pieces and follow up with those people. All that starts with lead generation and conversion, right? So I want you to understand that the core of this business and any other business is that. Now the other things on there, OP, market center investor. People don't just say, "Hey, Richard, do you want to buy a market center?" I've been prospecting for those opportunities. Same thing with profit shares, I'm sure you know, and the construction business. Everything starts with lead generation. On the next slide, you're going to see that it all stops without lead generation and conversion. So if I pull my foot off the gas, that machine slows down pretty quickly, right? So it's up to me to consistently be there in my database, nurturing, farming, and growing the database. Gary says build a wall around your database and work it, and that's what we do. In my 12 years at KW, 14 years in real estate now, I've never been a geographical farmer. We get all of that business from our database. So we just relentlessly go through our database and call and text and email and everything. And I'm going to show you how we do all that. So on the next slide, so we're going to cover a lot of ground in the call today, and I do that intentionally for a couple of reasons. One, I want you to get value on this call, right? So obviously the point of this call is to introduce you to a class that we have that you can invest in at the end of the call. And if you stick around to the end, we are going to have a promo code for you. We're doing a Family Reunion promotional code as well. My calls, as you can tell from my rate of speech, include a lot of information. We're going to cover a lot of ground. I want you to get value out of these calls. I want you to walk away with a changed business. So here's the first challenge I want you to do. So write this down. I know it's Friday afternoon for most of you, so this may not happen until Monday. So that's okay. Here's the challenge, right? So I want you to start with the beginning. The beginning is, do we pick up our phone and dial our phone, right? That's the first thing that we do in real estate. If we can't pick up our phone and dial our phone, then nothing else happens. So the first thing that I want you to do is I want you to get comfortable with that. So the challenge is I want you to sit down for an hour and make phone calls and track the calls. We're going to be tracking our numbers in this class. I don't like tracking numbers either, but what Gary says, success is in the boring, right? When you track your numbers, you realize what the output that you're really producing is, and it's usually less than what you think, right? If you're making less than 20 calls, you're not operating at full capacity. If you're on an auto dialer, these numbers are going to be a little bit higher. We'll talk about that. But I'd like for everybody to get used to making purposeful phone calls on a manual dial situation. If you're farming or prospecting, at some point you're going to be calling your A and B buyers and sellers, and you'll have to use a manual dial because you may have to prepare in between calls. But the first thing I want you to do is to get on the phone for an hour straight and do nothing else but make calls. Now, in a second, I'm going to show you how to do that in a little bit better way than what you're probably doing it. But what we find with our new agents is they hit about 12, 14, maybe 16 calls that first hour. Our standard is a minimum of 20, and we'd really like our agents to be at 25 per hour. Now, obviously, that fluctuates because this is mostly calling our A's and B's. But by doing it this way, we're going to increase our productivity. For going from 16 to 20 to 25% bump in productivity, and I promise you, no more effort. On the next slide, I'm going to start running you through different ways that we're going to do this, right? So I'll give you a little bit of a head start. So it's 1 hour, right? We're going to make a minimum of 20 calls. That's our standard. Our goal is 25. So on the next slide, I'll keep walking through the different ways we're going to do that. The standard for this is so the difference between goal and standard is what's the minimum expectation, and goal is what we're stretching for, right? So I think we should be at 25, but the standard is 20, right? If you can make 20 dials per hour from your phone, you're doing great. If you're doing 25, you're doing fantastic, right? So first slide, easy enough. Clear off your desk, prepare your call list. So if you see my desk, it's cleared off. Before I make my calls, I handle my fires. I put my fires out. I get everything out of my face. It's just me, my phone, and my screen, right? Number two, most important, is the call list, right? So who am I going to call? There's a call latency problem that a lot of us have, that we're spending 10, 15, 20, 30 seconds between dials looking for that next dial. And that may sound inconsequential, but if you multiply that by 5 or 10,000 dials a year, it's an enormous number, right? 30 seconds an hour times 20 calls is already 600 seconds is 10 minutes, right? Do you want to spend 10 minutes of prime time fumbling around for numbers? Definitely not. You can make 3 or 5 more calls in that time. So now on the next slide, I'll show you a few more things. We want to really eliminate that pause. The original course title for this, when we started writing it several years ago, is Human Auto Dialer, because we were really focused on how do we eliminate the inefficiencies of calling. Now, a lot of you are using auto dialers. We will have an auto dialer training within the call, and myself and my team all use auto dialers. We actually use 2 different ones, a single and a triple line. We're going to walk you through all of that. The majority of what we're going to cover will directly address the numbers of the single line dialer, but a lot of the scripting that we're going to cover in the middle of the class is going to address closing for it won't matter for which kind, right? So the idea is not to stop. Hang up the phone, dial the next number. While the phone is ringing, get the next number ready, right? Now the auto dialer handles that for you, but if you're manually dialing, you're going to have to solve it on your own. So on the next slide, we'll keep going with some more ideas. Now, you have to have focus and goal, right? So another way to get past this call reluctance or call latency is to really reframe the way that you're thinking about these calls, right? So I think that we think we're making calls because our team leader is telling us to, because Mojo Dialer in the corner is going to report a number to someone else, because we've made a promise to ourselves. And those are all good reasons to do it, but ultimately that's not going to get you through a month of calls, a year of calls. For me, 14 years of dialing to that phone day in and day out. What's going to get you there is going to be an absolute crystal clear connection to what your end goal is. Now, this is a little bit of a business planning thing, and it's the beginning of the year still. Actually, we're kind of wrapping up Q1, but it's still February. So you probably all recently did business planning. Now, we're not going to cover business planning directly, but I will give you some basic ideas on business planning. Business planning is the way that you're going to connect your end goal to your daily activity. So very briefly, And if you want to cover this, we can do it during the class. I want to make $100,000 this year. My average net commission check is $8,000. That means I need to close 12 escrows. 12 escrows is one a month. To get one escrow a month, I need to write 2 offers a month. To write 2 offers, I need to go on 6 showings. So I need to go on 1.5 showings a week, right? To go on 1.5 showings every week, I need to make a certain number of dials and contacts, right? So then I can figure out, well, if I make 20 contacts a day, I make 1.5 showing appointments a week. That leads to 2 offers a month, which leads to 1 accepted offer a month, 1 escrow a month, 1 closing, which generates a certain amount of revenue, about $8,000, which gets me to $100,000 net income by the end of the year. So let me know if that made sense. There is a question panel. We may have time for a couple questions. If you have questions that I don't have time to answer on the call, then feel free to reach out to me on Facebook or by my email, which will be on the call. But the idea is that I want you to be crystal clear with your goal. Now, $100,000 net income is how much money you're intending to make. It's not the reason why you're making the money, right? So I have the firm belief that what we do in real estate is very difficult. I take calls, as much as we try to coach ourselves out of it, people are calling me 8 o'clock every night. I'm working 7 days a week most weeks. I'm in and out, and, I get vacation at weird times, but it's a stressful job and it's a grind. And I believe that because of that, we should be making more money than we would in an average job where we're working 40 hours a week, right? We're taking on that extra burden, and we're working on a commission. So I think that you should have a goal to do something with that money, right? So what are you going to do with that money that you're going to make? You're going to do something special. You're going to pay for college for your kids. You're going to buy a house. You're going to buy a rental property. You're going to buy a new car. All right, Paige, let's go to the next slide. I think I spent a while on that one. So I want you to understand that by making fewer calls than the standard, you're stealing money from yourself, right? And by stealing money from yourself, you're impacting your ability to go on that dream vacation, to pay for college, to buy that rental property. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. The money has to have a purpose. You can't make money for the sake of making money. Now, if we're going to increase our calling, we're going to have an enormous result, right? So I'm proposing that I can probably increase your average outbound dials by 5 per hour and as high as 10. So with the instance that we're doing 10, and our standard is 2 hours of outbound lead generation daily. That's 10 calls twice a day. It's 20 calls a day extra. 5 times a week is 100 calls a week extra times 50 weeks. I'm giving you 2 weeks vacation already. If you go from 15 dials an hour to 25 dials an hour, you're going to make 5,000 more dials extra with really no extra work being done. Now, the question I have for you is, if I can show you a way to do that, do you think that would benefit your business or not? That's called the tie-down close. I hope you guys like that one. Next slide, please, Paige. Now, making 5,000 calls extra is a lot of calls. We're going to have to get some energy to do that, right? We're going to really connect to our purpose and our goal. When I get ready for my calls, I get really amped up. I don't just, hop on the phone and go. I prepare myself. I think about what I want to say. I practice my scripts. Before I do this call, I go through the slide deck. Even though I've gone through the slide deck dozens of times, I go through it. I made changes last night, right? Constantly tinkering and upgrading. When I'm making my calls, I have a stand-up desk. I'm going to be standing, walking. I take my shoes off, as some of you know. I get really excited to make the calls, whether it's this call or my lead gen calls. Might listen to music beforehand, might get real pumped up, try to make sure everything's off my plate, put my phone away, right? Put my Facebook away, take a little Facebook break, and go. All right, next slide, please, Paige. All right, and we'll go one more because we covered this a little bit already. I got real excited a couple slides ago. So if you don't have goals for each call, we need to talk about why not. And on the next slide, we'll go more into that. That'll go back to our goal segment, right? So we're going to be thinking about what are our goals for each call and what are the end results, right? So we're going to be really heavy into this because I promise you it'll be a challenge at some point. Next slide. So another way to look at this, and this is something I've done for a long time, and it really helps, I think, if you're having trouble connecting to a goal. Maybe you're a new agent, and buying a home or paying for kids' college isn't front of mind. Maybe just year 1 or year 2, you're trying to stabilize your business and make enough money to put a couple bucks in savings. That's fine. We can still work with a goal on that. That can still be a 2 or 3 year goal. But I understand that the idea of an abstract goal that's multiple years away is tougher to connect to than, let's say, if I make my sales, I'm taking my family on vacation at the end of the year. So I just set up a long time ago an arbitrary number for calls. I decided every call was worth $100 to me. That meant that when I'm sitting in my office and I'm tired and I want to go home and I'm at 46 dials for the day, but my standard for that day is 50, I just thought to myself, I'm going to make $400 more by making these calls, right? And it's not, obviously not today. No one's cutting me a check at the end of the day for that. But through additional commissions by making more sales, I figured that was out. Now, we just put a math formula up, and on the next slide page, there's a formula for it, but I just sort of thought, like the numbers come out between $16 and $100 an hour, depending on your dials and your price point, your expected GCI. But I just decided that was like a nice number to think about. For newer agents, the number is probably more like in the $20 to $25 per dial range, but it's still significant. All right, now what's the point of a phone call? Now the answer is on there, so you guys are all going to get this pretty easily. But this is a big thing we're going to work on during the class. So the first big thing we covered for the call for the class is going to be really connecting with mindset and purpose to increase our number of dials, right? Number of dials is the first activity we need to master. Once we master dials, we're going to move on to activity number 2, and that's mastering appointments. So the point of a phone call is to make an appointment, right? We're not going to have an appointment over the phone. We're going to have an appointment in person, face-to-face. If we do not have appointments face-to-face, we will be eliminated from the real estate business, right? We will be expedited out of the real estate business. I promise you that. If people can do this by computer or online through a call center, they will not need a local in-person expert. So next slide, please, Paige. So how are we going to set appointments? So I'm going to give you some of the scripts that we're using, and by using these scripts, you're going to see an increase in conversion, right? Everything we're doing is in bulk, right? We're talking about adding thousands of dials a year with no extra effort. I also want to increase your conversion. So when you're making those thousands of dials, you're creating dozens and dozens of appointments, right? Now, Gary says our standard is to make 11 appointments a week. So everyone on here, me, you, Paige, we all have to make 11 appointments a week. Now, to do that, we need to change how we're scripting. And most of us are scripting poorly, and we're using the word ask. We're asking for appointments, asking for the sale. And I still do that myself sometimes, too. I'm not completely clear of that. But we've been looking at how to improve our scripting, and we're using different word choices, right? So this is a lot of detail on word choice. But the idea is that we're using what's called a tell, don't ask script. And tell, don't ask script means that instead of asking someone to meet with us or asking them for an appointment or begging them to meet with us, whatever it is, we're telling them we're going to meet, right? And the idea behind that is that we want to take charge of the situation. The situation is that the buyer or seller is coming to us as an expert, or they're interacting with us as an expert. And when someone talks to an expert, the expert doesn't come to their home, right? Your lawyer is not coming to your house to advise you on legal matters. Your accountant did not drive over to your office to consult you. Your doctor certainly doesn't come to your house either to consult with you. Think of yourself as that level of professional. You are handling a major thing for these people, and the right thing to do is to have a face-to-face meeting where they would come to you, and you take charge of that situation, right? Now, obviously, if it's a seller appointment, you're going into the home, although I know a lot of agents doing seller meetings in office, but I want you to have the mindset that you're the expert and you're going to have the buyer or seller come and meet with you, right? Now, the way to do that is to take charge is instead of asking for an appointment is telling them what you're going to do. So here's a simple sample one, and we'll work a lot on this throughout the call, throughout the class, to really give you clarity on how and when to use it. But I want you to think about directing the activity of your clients or potential clients when you're talking to them on the phone. So the first script is for buyers. This is, let's say a buyer has called in, doesn't matter, sign call, internet lead, a referral from a friend. Instead of saying, are you pre-approved, do you mind getting pre-approved, or instead of saying, let's go look at properties and then I'll have you talk to a lender later, the first step is for you to speak to a lender and get pre-approved. Once you've done that, then I'll meet with you, and then we can tour homes, right? By using this simple language pattern of directing activity, we're setting the expectation for that potential buyer that they're going to have to do a certain series of activities. The vast majority of people want this direction from their agents. We as agents are so timid around our clients, we're so afraid to lose our clients that we're not being direct and taking charge. So in the next slide, we'll do another one. We have a couple more for you. And this is for sellers, right? So it's the same thing, tell, don't ask. We're going to go into extreme detail. We have 2 hours of scripting out of the 5. We're going to cover very much in detail how to script with people to make appointments, right? So ultimately, the goal of this class is to take you from wherever you are in your business to increasing your outbound prospecting to creating more appointments for you. So this takes you all the way up to the appointment. We do have a follow-up class that starts also in April that does the appointment to the closing, right? So here we go, sellers. Sellers, the best thing for me to do is to come to your home and give you a personalized evaluation. Is Tuesday or Wednesday better? Right? So this is in response to many questions the seller may ask you. What's my home worth? How's the market doing? Whatever it is, the best thing for me to do is come to your home and speak to with you about that. Is Tuesday or Wednesday better? Right? Now, the reason we do this, and this is called an alternative choice close. You're probably familiar with it, right? And it could be our afternoons or mornings better, is 3 or better, or 4 better, whatever it is, right? The idea is that we're directing action and we're switching the emphasis of the question, right? Now, if I say, do you want me to come over to your home? First of all, it's a yes-no question. We want to avoid that. If we ask that question, the question the seller is answering is whether or not they want us to come over to their house. And most people will reflexively say no. I don't want people coming to my house. I'm sure most of you don't want people coming to your house either. People don't want real estate brokers coming to their homes for the most part, right? But if we change it to, the best thing for me to do is come to your home and give you a personalized evaluation. Is Tuesday or Wednesday better? Now we're changing the question to, is Tuesday or Wednesday better, not whether or not you should come to the home. Now, some people will still break this pattern, and they'll still say, I don't think this is a great idea. But most people will now be pushed over to answering if Tuesday or Wednesday is better, or giving you a response like, those aren't good, but how about Thursday, right? So we're changing the emphasis of the question to change the result. Next slide. All right, this is for showings, right? So this is, again, another simple example of what we can do with the scripting. And Paige, before I get to this one, were there any questions that we should get to now? Anything that I glossed over?
Yes, so there's one. So earlier when you were talking about making the calls, they asked, are you wanting 20 calls or connections?
Oh, great question. That's definitely something I did skip over. So we'll cover that more in detail in the first 2 calls, but I'll give you a quick answer. So when we look at the progression of our real estate business, the first thing we have to master is dials, right? Once you make enough dials, then we can focus on connections or contacts, right? Then we can focus on appointments, then contracts, then escrows, then closings, right? So as we master one step at a time, we eventually get to the mastering of closing section, right? So 20 dials is the minimum standard expected for people on my team. We expect, and this is a MAPS standard as well, I believe, that people should be making between 8 and 10 live contacts every hour. Now, a live contact is anything from, please don't ever call me again, to, yes, I'd love for you to come list my home tomorrow, right? Anytime a live human answers the phone, that counts as a contact. That makes it easy for record keeping. So you should be hitting 8 to 10. So if your standard is 20 dials an hour and you're making about 8 to 10 contacts out of that, then you should hit your 20 contacts per day in about 2 to 2.5 hours. Now, you might do it in 2 hours and then hit an open house or go to a social event to pick up extra contacts. We find that the same numbers work for circle dialing and prospecting. The appointment numbers obviously go down with circle dialing and prospecting, but the live connect numbers actually are usually higher because they're making a far higher volume of outbound dials. So thanks for having me clarify that. But we will set standards for contacts and nurtures in the class, but for now, just the idea that we're starting at the beginning of dials. And the reason we do this, I usually mention this at the beginning. Most of you guys have heard this story about John Wooden. John Wooden was the coach of the UCLA basketball team in a period of time where they won, I think, like 10 out of 11 national titles. So he's commonly regarded as the best basketball or college basketball coach of all time. And the first thing he did with his new students, including Bill Walton and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who were, if you don't follow basketball, were 2 of the best who ever played, he had them, first they started putting on their socks, right? First step is putting on your socks. Once you've mastered putting on your socks, then you put on your shoes, right? So that's the idea that by doing that, by mastering the basics, we can become great. And so I'm not going to promise you 9 or 10 national titles on this call, but we will increase the amount of money that you make by selling real estate. All right, anything else pressing, Paige? Or if not, I'll give my email out, and people can email me or ping me later, and I'll get back to them. If you contact me, I'll get back to you within a day or less, and during the call, everyone will have access to me on email and Facebook for follow-up questions. And all the calls are live, so you have an opportunity to ask questions during the call as well. We also, in the full class, we build in more time, a little bit more time for questions than we have today on the introductory call. So one more script, and then we'll wrap up and give you some more information. We'll give you that promo code at the end. So the last one just says tell, don't ask. I really want to reinforce how powerful it is. If you guys leave this call and try this at home, you're going to see tremendous results, right? The next time you say to someone, the next best step is for us to meet at my office, they're going to be really blown away and have a hard time saying no to that, right? So how about showings, right? So someone calls in for a house. This is a real tricky one. I run into this with my team and my new agents constantly. Someone calls in, they want information about a house, right? Our listing, another listing, some internet lead, a referral, whatever it is, and we start asking them all these questions. The right answer is, that's a great house. How about I take you to look at that house? I can show you a couple more right after. What time is best for you, right? Someone calls you out, I'm interested in that house. Great. What time would you like to see it? 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock, right? Now, the reason we do that is because we're trying to make an affirm appointment with them right away. Now, what we'll work on in the class is qualifying. After we make the appointment, we're going to go back and qualify them so that we make sure we're not going on an appointment that's going to be a waste of time. But absolutely, first move is to make that appointment. All right, next slide page. Thanks. All right, let me go over the what you're going to get in the call. You're going to double or triple your outbound call volume. You're going to improve your conversion. We're going to work a lot of habit building for lead generation, and all this spills over to other facets of your business. We're going to really work on efficiency. I'm real big on efficiency. When I put my time and energy into something, I want to get paid on it, right? I don't want to waste my time on poor leads, and I'm sure you don't either. Everything that we do on this call is the same as what we do for my team in Los Angeles, right? So everything's the same. Everything that you do here, I'm teaching them, or I'm getting from our work together and improving our class. So one more slide. The first call of Marathon Lead Gen, we're going to talk about purpose, systems, everything about the basics of getting ready to make calls at a high level, right? Scheduling ourselves, clearing our desk, getting ready to make calls, the different systems for prospecting. The second call, what we're going to do is we're going to set up call systems. What that means is we're going to say how long in between, how long from contact to next call, right? Someone calls in for a property or emails in. How am I going to purposely and systematically follow up with that person so that I know exactly that I'm calling and contacting them the right number of times, right? We're going to start working on scripts for following up with people. Call 3, we're going to work on setting scripts for buyer meetings, right? We want to set buyer meetings. Call 4, we're going to set scripts for seller meetings. We're going to use the same tell, don't ask for seller meetings. On the 5th call, we'll talk more about mindset, and then we're also going to jump in and we're going to do an auto dialer training. So I'd love to have you on. We start in about a month, but we will have some bonus calls between now and then to keep you busy in between. So Fridays, 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 Central, we have 5 1-hour webinars. They're all recorded for your convenience, so you can listen to them if that time's not convenient, or if you want to re-listen to them a second time. We do have a Facebook group, so if you have questions, if you miss a call live, you can always email me or Facebook me questions. We answer all the questions that come in. And we provide a lot of other support, like finding script partners, giving you additional support material for scripts, and anything you'd need with your work. So there you go. That's everything I have about Marathon Lead Generation and Conversion. There's the link. You'll also get a link to sign up right after this from Paige and Maps. And Paige, what's the promo code that we're giving?
It is FR 2018.
Okay, so when you sign up,
you save 20% off.
Yeah, so that takes it down to, I believe, 119. When you sign up, put that code in, you'll get the discount. When's that good through, Paige?
That is good through the end of February. So,
okay.
I believe it's February 28th.
Okay, perfect. So you guys got a few more days on that.
Got to sign up soon to receive that 20% off.
Okay, perfect. So everyone take note of that. We'd love to have you on the call. If you have any questions, let me know, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you.